Alright, what's up, Slide Pollers? Today we are going to be doing another Game Dev Reacts, and that is for Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. So, what is this game? Just going to explain the company and what this game is if you didn't know. I mean, this game was a part of my childhood. I remember being probably 7 years old or so when the first Battlefront came out, playing this on the PS2. Like a lot of people, I view games that came out on the PS2 as just somewhat the peak of gaming. I don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, I'm only in it for the nostalgia, like only the nostalgic games are the best. But the PS2 era was really one of the best gaming eras of all time. Before I get into too much about this, I want to say thank you for 100 subscribers. And also, I saw some comments on the previous video saying that I needed to fix my mic, so I am working on that. I can't make any guarantees. College student. So Star Wars Battlefront Classic Edition is essentially, I was confused when I saw this. Is it a remake? Is it a reboot? It's essentially just a carbon copy 2024 edition of the game that was released 20 years ago. So let's just take a look at the reviews just to get that first sense if you haven't, but that's what a lot of people do. The very top comment, which is on the reviews, this is their equivalent of a top comment like you'll see on social media, is the Steam page for the 2005 version, which is just hilarious. Like, the best comment on here is a link to the game that they made 20 years ago that they're copying now. There's a lot of things I want to say about this, so let's get into some of the critical stuff first. The thing that you're going to hear about the most is the issues with the server. They had an insane amount of issues with the servers, which it just goes to show that they didn't take the time on playtesting, or they didn't take the time to pay people to playtest their game, or they didn't take the time to take the right steps necessary to make sure that the game that's 20 years old, the one new feature that they're adding is this online capability. In the old game, as far as I remember, I'm almost positive there was no online version in the old game. Like, I love competitive gaming, but in the old game, the AI was so far ahead of its time. Like, it was literally like you were fighting an army. It was a competitive game. I actually was thinking about this before I made this video. I think Battlefront, the original Battlefront, was one of the things that got me into competitive gaming. Like, of course, I love sports, but they added that scoreboard counter on it, and there was that last man standing vibe, and just the old game was perfect. Both of them. I can't remember even which one I liked more. I just know that the galactic battle or whatever it was called, and then at the end of the game you'd get you could unlock like Darth Vader or whatever. I'm not going to go back and play those games to review this, but if you played them in that era, it was just peak gaming. I'm not going to lie. PS2 Battlefront 2004 2005, you're not going to get much better. So let's take a look at some of the other negative reviews. First hour of launch, only have 3 servers to join, massing about 200 people rounded up. Seriously, WTF is this? I'll update this review if I can actually join a lobby. He goes on to say he was only able to join a game, which, again, I'm very confused on what they were thinking with this. There's a part of me that wants to say that the online part wasn't even necessary. This same company, aspyr, isn't a new company. I was figuring when I went to do the research for this video that this was some new startup company that EA hired to essentially recreate a game that they'd made 20 years ago. But no, this is a company that's been around for a while. They were just recently bought out in 2021 by a much bigger company, which employs over 1,300 people. Aspyr themselves has, I believe, around 100 employees. So the development studio has around 100 employees. The team that bought them has around 1,400 employees, and yet they weren't able to get a 20-year-old game um, able to work on the online. I'm very conflicted on this because I feel like if they would have taken the online aspect out of it, um, this would be I probably wouldn't even be making this video. I saw this was coming out a couple weeks ago, and I was going to make a video on it. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of glad I didn't because I try and keep everything somewhat positive unless I'm roasting these massive colossal failures from big studios. You're never gonna hear me roasting an indie game or anything like that. Not that they don't deserve criticism, like that game Elf Kicker, which was released in early February, which you can get on Steam for free. Anyways, this Star Wars Battlefront Classic was kind of doomed from the start. Um, this same company released a remake of Tomb Raider, which was pretty positively received, and they released that in February, just last month. But I don't understand what this game was trying to achieve. It's the exact same game. And here's another crazy thing. You guys want to know how much space this takes up? Guess a 20-year-old game, how much space that would take up, I would think just off the top of my head, 5 gigabytes to 10 gigabytes, right? It's an old game. Yeah, they added some online capabilities, but you don't really need that much space to play online. That's more on the servers. But okay, let's say 15. Good estimate. No. Not only does this game not have crossplay on it, this game is 60 to 70 gigabytes of space. For a 20-year-old game, the original game had 10 to 15, somewhere in there. And I just, like the majority of the people who have reviewed this, am pretty disgusted by this result. Now, is there a world where I would pay $5 to $10 simply to play a slightly updated? I don't even know what they updated. I was watching multiple reviews of this game, and the game looks the exact same carbon copy of the game that was made in 2004, which I'm looking at the date at the bottom of my computer right now. It's just crazy that that's been 20 years. I was playing that as a little kid on the PS2, and now I'm reviewing a remake of the same game that just they couldn't get right. Like, if you're getting this is all a cash grab, right? People need to understand this. This is by EA. They're making the majority of this money. They hired this studio to do it. I don't know what the exact details are on the revenue split, but this is a cash grab, right? It's $35 to play a game that you can go get on Steam, the exact same game, the original game. Let's see how much it is. I think it's like $5. I need to sure. $10 for Battlefront 2, the original edition. And I don't know, I'm kind of getting a little fed up with these companies trying to get away with this, because they're disrespecting the original game, right? This is straight up disrespectful. If I understand, there was a lot of people I saw, they said, "Oh, I want to introduce this new generation to the classic Battlefronts. I want to be able to it's not cross-platform. So if you're on Steam, you're pretty much screwed. This game, even if it had been perfect, this game wasn't going to last long for online matches. You're going to end up having to play offline, which, again, I love competitive gaming, but if there was ever a game that I wasn't going to play in a competitive aspect, like if I was just going to play on the offline aspect, the original game was already so good on the way that they made the enemy armies. Like, it was like you were fighting in a real battle. Again, this was 20 years ago. I could be viewing it through a different light than was reality, but I feel like most people who played it back then would agree that it was way ahead of its time. in pretty much all aspects. It was good graphically then. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we here right now? Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. Not only do I not recommend this, I think that this it shouldn't be criminally investigated, but there needs to be some answers. The people who made it, Aspyr, did post a response, and of course they did this on their private forums, which no one's going to see. So I'll read that response real quick. It says, "We'd like to thank the Battlefront community for their overwhelming support and feedback, blah, blah, blah. At launch, we experienced critical errors with our network infrastructure. The result was incredibly high ping, matchmaking errors, crashes, and servers not appearing in the browser." Then they just go on that they're going to try and work on this, fix it, but it's too late. It's DOA. There's no recovering from this, unfortunately. I would pay $10 to play this, even though it's the exact same game as the old one. The old one cost $10 on Steam. I'd pay $10, maybe $15 to just support. It does take. That's another thing. How did they even make this? Because they were using, obviously, they weren't using Unreal Engine to make this game back in the day. I don't even know what engine they used to make this back in the day, back in the archaic 2004s when game developers just a whole different beast. I give respect to the people that were making games back then, because I think it's hard now making games, but compare it to 20 years ago, then it's night and day. It's not even the same. But what did they do? Did they copy the assets and paste them and just, write the code for this? Or did they literally sit down and try and recreate the same graphics? Because again, graphically it looks the exact same as the old game, so I'm assuming they just took the old game and added multiplayer, maybe added a new level. They added some more capabilities to where you could do the hero battle. I think on the old one, I just remember playing like the hero battle on that bar level. That's all I remember. There was that little coliseum. I'm getting like weird Vietnam flashbacks to playing that in my living room, sitting on the ground. That's another reason why this really bothers me, is this just seems so disrespectful, so disingenuine from this studio and from EA and the people that approve this. Like, they're taking advantage of the players. If you paid $35 for this, I would definitely refund that. I mean, if you can get the enjoyment of $35 out of it by playing simply offline, you probably could, honestly. If I bought this game, I would play it just offline. And again, for the millionth time, I love competitive gaming. I love, the League of Legends, all of that stuff. I just like playing online games, 2K, heads up, just battle, best skill wins. But with this game, I'd rather play it offline. It's just me being completely honest. And yeah, I'm very disappointed. Obviously, the Steam community as a whole is very disappointed. You played the original Battlefronts, I guarantee you it's one of the most loved um, games of all time. Both of them. I can't even remember which one I like more. That's how good they were. But I'm not going to hammer it too much. I just wanted to make a quick game dev updates and then some updates for the channel. I've been reaching out to some people about possibly getting some, not sponsorships, but maybe promoting some affiliates that are involved with things like coding and stuff, because I did do a poll recently where I asked you guys what type of content you want to see. I'm going to make a video on how to get into game dev. That's going to be probably the next video after this one. My next video was actually supposed to be that one, but I've been spending like 10 hours a day coding, working on my next project, and it's been like, I always get to like 2 or 3 a.m. It's 3 a.m. right now, but I always get to like 3 a.m. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a video on how to get into game dev, and then I'm like, no, I'm too tired. That needs to be a video that I already wrote the pseudo code for it. Just the outliers of how to get into game dev, but that's something where I need to I can't just yap for 10 minutes like I am with this one. That one needs to be actually like, because that could affect somebody's life. That video, how to get into game dev. I'm going to take it seriously and actually give you guys some good pointers. If you have no experience with game dev, that'll be something that you definitely want to be on the lookout for. But let me know what you guys think about this, especially if you played the old Star Wars Battlefront classics. Let me know what you think about just the disrespect that they have shown us on this game. Makes me sick. But that's it. I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.